Your local library is having a reading competition where each person participating will be awarded points based on the number of books that are read. And the points are awarded as follows. So if somebody reads 10 books, or even less than the first 10 books, okay, so the first 10 books you get 5 points per book. So let's look at an example here, right? If the person read 7 books, then you got 5 points per book. That means 5 times 7, and you got 35 points. So for somebody that falls into the first category, you just simply take the number of books and multiply it by 5 because they get 5 points for the first 10 books. So that is very straightforward, the first category. The second category, the second example gets a little more complicated. Here we are saying the next 8 books. So let's look at somebody who read 12 books in total. This is the total number of books they've read. So in the first example, the total number of books was 7. So it was just straightforward 5 times 7. But if a person read 12 books, the first 10 books, right? The first 10 books, you get 5 points for it. And then the next 8 books, you get 7 points. But this person only read 12 books. So 2 books fall into this next 8 category. 2 books fall into that. So you got 2 books, and the number of points they're going to get there is going to be 7 points. So here the person is 10 times 5 is 50, and 2 times 7 is 14. The total number of points is 54 if they read 12 books. So this can seem a little complicated, but let's go through a couple more examples, and I think you're going to get the idea, right? But you have to understand what it means when they talk about the first 10 books, 5 points, the next 8 books, 7 points, the next 6 books, 9 points, anything thereafter, 15 points. So let's look at the third example. I'm now saying somebody reads 18 books. Let's work out the number of points this person should get. Now, there's no point in me trying to code this immediately if I don't understand the question. So what I'm trying to do by taking these examples, I'm trying to understand the question. So 18 books, right? The first 10 books are 5 points. So the first 10 books of the 18, the first 10 are 5 points. The next 8 books, 18 is 10 and 8. So the next 8 books, right, are at 7 points. So 10 plus 8, 18. I've already got my 18. So let's calculate the points. 5 times 10 is 50. 8 times 7 is 56. And if I add it up, I get 106 points. So this person that read 18 books, they are going to get 106 points. Let's look at another example. I'm hoping that it's getting a little clearer now. Let's say somebody read 20 books. What happens in this case with 20 books? So with 20 books, the first 10 books, are 5 points. So the first 10 books are 5 points. The next 8 books, are 7 points. That's only 18. I still got 2 more books. The last 2 books falls into this category that says the next 6 books. The next 6 books are at 9 points. So the first 10 books are 5 points. The next 8 books are 7 points. I still haven't reached 20 yet. And the last 2 books, the next 6 books, are at 9 points. So let's work this out. 5 times 10 is 50. 8 times 7 is 56. And 2 times 9 is 18. 8 and 6 is 4. 4 carry 1. 5, 10, 11, and the carry 12. So that person will get 124 points for reading 20 books. And the 20 books fell into the first 10, next 8, and next 6. It fell into those 3 categories. Let's look at one more case. I'm really hoping now you all are getting the idea. And guys, this is a tricky question. I do agree. It is a tricky question, but it's something that you should be able to figure out as I'm going through the question. Let's take somebody who's read 30 books. Right, so this person has now read 30 books. So how will this now work for 30 books? Well, according to the table, right, let's look at the table. The first 10, we know that. The first 10 are 5 points. The next 8 are 7 points. So I've read 18 books so far. The first 10 and next 8. The next 6 are at 9 points. The next 6 books are at 9 points. How many books have I read? 10, 18, 9, 24. I've read 24 so far, but I need 30. I need 30. So anything thereafter is 15 points. So how many books more do I have to take me to 30? 10, 18, 19, 24. I need 6 more books to take me to 30. And those 6 books are at 15 points. And I'm now going to work out 10 times 5, 50. 8 times 7, 56. 6 times 9, 63. 15 times 6. What is 15 times 6? 15 times 6 is 90. Right? That's equal to 90. And if I add them up, 6 plus 3 is 9. And let's add here 5 plus 5 is 10. 16, 25. So this person that reads 30 books gets 259 points. Now, through these 5 examples, I'm hoping that you could see the pattern in terms of how the question was phrased. Read the question. This gives you an indicator. This gives you an indicator here. 1, 2, 3, 4, anything thereafter. So in terms of the if, I'm going to have an if the number of books for the first 10, means it's less than equal to 10. The first 10. So I'm going to have an if check like that for the first 10, and then I'm going to do something. Then for the second one, the next 8, I'm going to be saying else if num is less than equal to 18, 10 and 8, 18. Next 8 falls into the category of 18. The next 6, else if, and then obviously I would have had a statement in it. Then else if num is less than equal to, let's add 6 to 18. 18 plus 6 is 24. And then anything else, I'm just going to have a final else statement. So in your program, it's going to, your if checking is going to be something like this that I'm going to be using in my program. There's going to be 4 parts to it. It's a multi-way if. It's a multi-way if. That's the first part, second part, third part, and there's the else, which is my 4th part. So guys, let's attempt to write the solution for this. Right. I'm going to go to my Java. Okay. And I'm going to be writing in this new cell. I'm finished with question 1. I'm going to write in the new cell. And there is the question here to remind me what I need to do. So the first part of this, we needed to input the total number of books. Input total number of books read by the person. So this is something we must know, right? Books, let's call it books equals, you would read a whole number, which is an integer. Input, enter the total number of books read, and let's put a colon there so you display it, it appears much better. Okay, great. So that's the first part where I've got to input the total number of books, find and output the number of points. I'm going to put a comment, and the comment is going to say calculate number of points, because that's what I'm doing. I'm calculating the number of points. I'm just making some extra space so that you don't see the program. That part has gone away, and I'm only focusing on the first, on this particular program. So let's start our if check. If books, the variable that I just read, if books are less than equal to 10. Equal to 10. And how do I work out my points? How do I work out my points? If you remember, all we did for the first case is we took the number of books and we just multiplied it by this case here. We took the number of books, which was 7, and we just multiplied 7 by 5 because each book was 5 points. So that was just an example. So you take the number of books and multiply it by 5. There we go. Okay. So for you to come into this if check means your books are less than 10. So take the number of books and multiply it by 5. Now, sometimes I see students do this. They say 7 times 5. Why do they say 7 times 5? Because in my example, I used 7. Now, please don't do that. In the test, I'll give you examples so you understand what the question is saying. And in my first example, I used 7 books. It doesn't mean that when you're programming, you program for 7 books. You program it in a general form. And the general form is get the number of books and then take those books and multiply it by 5, because each book for the first case is 5 points. It gets a little tricky now for the second case. So you have to just pay sharp attention here. So now I'm going to say else if now books are, they say the next 8, you have to understand, for me to come into this case for the next 8 books, it means you had to have read the first 10 books. So the maximum number you can have in the second case is 18 books. So that's why my check is going to be less than equal to 18. Because this is the maximum number, 18, right? It includes the first 10 plus however many you have read. For example, if you read 12 books, the first 10 and you got 2 books left over. If you read 15 books, it's the first 10 plus 5 that are left over. Right? So there's 2 parts to this. Let's go back to my calculation and look at this. There are 2 parts to this. Was the case, right? This was the case. If I read 12 books, 12 books is the first 10 at 5 points and the remainder. This 2 is my remainder. How did I get the remainder? It was the total number of books, which is 12, minus the first 10. So you take the total number of books minus the first 10, that will give you your remainder. Okay, even if I look at this example here, 18 books. The first 10 is at 5 points. How did I get 8? It's the total, which is 18 minus 10, gives me the remainder, which is 8. Okay, now let's code that. Let's write the code for that. So now I'm going to say my points. There's 2 parts. My points are the first 10. Remember, if I'm in this category, it means I got the first 10. So it's the first 10 times 5. Because the first 10 are calculated at 5 points. Now let's work out the remainder. The remainder is the total number of books. The total number of books minus the first 10 that I've already calculated over here. Take away that 10. That tells you how many books are left over. And you take that amount and you multiply that by how many points for those books? Those are at 7 points. So you multiply that by 7. Gets a little tricky. If you are in the second case, if you look at the example here, you have to understand the example. It's made up of 2 parts. The first part is the first 10 books, and the second part is the remainder left over. What is the remainder that's left over? Which is the total minus 10. 12 minus 10, I'm left with 2. 18 minus 10, I'm left with 8. So that is exactly what I'm doing in my coding. I'm taking the total number of books minus 10. That tells me how many is left over, and that answer I am multiplying it by 7. Okay. Now we go to the third part. Look at example number 4. Number 4 has 3 parts to it. Right? For you to be in this category here, for you to be in this category, right? It means you have read. Okay, let me do this. I just want to clear all my annotations. Clear my annotations, just 1 second. Right. So if you are here in this category, it means you've read the first 10 books. The next 8 books, that means you've read 18 books. And now you are in this category, 6 books. But let's assume I didn't read all 6 books. Let's say I read 4 books. So the total number of books here is 18, 19, 20, 22. 22 books. Now, if you read 22 books, the first 10 books are at 5 points. The next 8 books are at 7 points. And then remember, I've read 22. What's the remainder? The remainder is at 9 points. The remainder is at 9 points. But how do I work out the remainder? The remainder is my total, which is 22, my total 22, minus the 10, minus the first 10, and minus the next 8. And that gives me 4. So this remainder here is 4, and 4 is going to be multiplied by 9 to get the number of points for that category, for that particular category. Right, so remember that this is now the third case, and the third case is made up of 3 parts. So let's now go back and let's look at the coding. Else if now, actually for this previous case, I should have said less than equal to 18. It should include 18. Third case, it goes up to what? 10, 18, 24. So that goes up to 24. So how do I work out the points? The first 10 books are multiplied at 5 points, plus the next 8 books are multiplied at 7 points. Right, there it is here. The first 10 books, 5 points. The next 8 books, 7 points. Now let's work out the remainder and multiply it by 9. Get the remainder. How do I get the remainder? The remainder is the total number of books, right? The total number of books minus the 10, minus this 10 that we've given 5 points for. And we also need to minus this 8 that we've given 7 points for, minus 8. And that will give us the remainder. And that remainder, I now multiply that by 9 points. Okay. Final case. Else is the case that says anything thereafter. Anything thereafter is 15 points. So it's exactly the same way. It's exactly the same way. Let's assume I've read 25 books. The first 10 at 5 points. The next 8 at 7 points. The next 6 is at 9 points. How many books have I read so far? 18, 24. But what's the remainder? 24, there's still 1 left over. 25 minus 10 minus 8 minus 6, 1 remainder, and that must be multiplied by 15. So let's code that. Points equals the first 10 is 10 times 5 plus next 8, 7, next 6 is 6 times. The last case, work out the remainder, which is the total number of books minus 10 minus 8 minus 6. Multiply that by 15 points. Whoops, that's 15 points. So here I'm taking away the first 10, I'm taking away the next 8, and I'm taking away the next 6 because these points have already been allocated. And the remainder is multiplied at 15 points. So that is how you would code something like this. And now I'm ready to print the total number of points. And I will then say plus, convert to an str, and print the variable points. Now, if you look carefully, I've used the points here. Here I said point S, so I'm going to put in an S. Here I said points as well. So be consistent, right? When you create a variable, make sure you use the right variable name throughout the program. Let's test it. And when you're testing it as well, make sure you test it properly. So I'm going to give this a run. It says enter total number of books. So the first category is less than 10. So let's say 5, right? For the first category, 5. So you know that if it's 5, it's simply going to take 5, the first 10, and multiply it by 5. So 5 times 5 is 25. So there we are. It says the total number of points is 25. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Let's give it a run again. Okay, this time around, let's test it for the second case. The second case, let's use 11 books, right? Let's use 11 books. That's an easy calculation to do. 11 is the first 10 times 5, and the remainder is 1, and that is at 7 points. So this is 50, this is 7, giving you a total of 57. So let's see if we get the same answer. I'm going to enter 11 books, and the total number of points, there it is, 57. It works because that is going into this second case. The first 10 books, the remainder times 7. Okay. The third case, 22. I've already worked this out. 22, but I didn't work out the final answer. Let's quickly work out this final answer for 22. What should I get? So that's 50, 10 times 5, 56, and 4 times 9 is 36. So that's 2 carry a 1, 5, 10, 13, 14. So 142. If I enter 22 books, I need to get a points of 142. And I'm getting an error. So there's something wrong in that calculation, right? And I can see immediately the equal to sign is not the equal to sign. You probably picked it up as I was typing. I'm sure you've picked it up. So I corrected it, 22, and there we are, 142 points. So that works. The last case, if I enter 25, that's 50, 56, 63, and 15. How much that give you? That's 9, 9, 14, 4 carry a 1, 5, 10, 16, 17 plus the 1, 18. So if I enter 25 books, I should get 184. So here, let's try it again. Let's give it a run. I'm going to enter 25 books and I'm getting a different answer. I'm getting a different answer. For 25 books, it's telling me 175 compared to I worked it out to 184. I wonder if my calculation is right. So let's quickly check it. 6 plus 3 is 9. 9, 10, 14, 4 carry a 1. 10, 16, 17, 18, 184. So now I picked up an answer that's different from what I'm expecting. So let's go back to my program and check to see if I did it correctly. So 10 books at 5 points, that's your 10 times 5, 50. 8 books at 7 points, that's the 56. 8 times 7 is 56. 6 books at 9 points, 6 times 9 is 63. And then 10 books minus 10 minus 8 minus 6. 10. I get the remainder. And I'm multiplying it by 15. And I'm multiplying it by 15. So that's for 25. So did I enter 25 or did I enter 22? So I did enter 25 and I got 175. So let's try that one more time. And I'm getting 175. So let me go to my program and let's now check. 25 means this condition is going to fail and it's going to come here. It's coming into this case here. All right. So it's working out 10 times 5. OK, so 10 times 5 is, I'm going to work on a piece of paper that you cannot see. I'm just making a note on a piece of paper. 10 times 5 is 50. That's correct. The next 8 books, 8 times 7. So the next 8 books, 8 times 7. OK, so that is 8 times 7 is 56. That's correct. Plus 6 times 9. So that's the next 6 books at 9 points. 6 times 9. That's correct. 6. 9 times 6. 9 times 6 is not 63, it's 54. That's where I made a mistake with my calculation. I said 9 times 6. I'm having to pull out my calculator. 9 times 6 is 54. That's my mistake. So now I found my mistake. And then the remainder is 25 minus 10 minus 8. That gives you 115. So now if I add them up, 50 plus 56 plus 54 plus 15. Let's pull out the calculator again. 50 plus 56 plus 54 plus 50. And there we are. I've got 175. That is why with the computer you can rest assured if your calculation is correct, you're going to get the right answer. With us, I multiplied incorrectly and I got the wrong answer. So as you can see, the program works properly.